Hey, I'm Jo and I have recently been on a quest to find happiness. Since January this year, 2024, I've been on a bit of a mission to be less miserable, which I've been documenting on here. So how's it going? I'm 6 months in and I thought I would share a little update with you. What out of all of the things that I've tried am I still doing? What am I not doing? What is the thing that I found the most beneficial? Am I actually happy? And what's next? Grab a cuppa and I will share that information with you. In January, I realised that I was actually pretty miserable. And I put this down to a few different reasons. I felt like I didn't have enough time to do anything, let alone the things that I wanted to do, things that gave me joy. And even when it came to doing things that gave me joy, I didn't even know what those things were, because it had been so long since I've actually asked myself, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? I felt like I was working too much, or perhaps just really inefficiently. I got stuck in the busy life, the work life, that being celebrated. Oh, I'm super busy with work, yay! Not being motivated. And especially when it came to the things that I knew that would make me feel better, I just couldn't be bothered to do them. Because I was working quite a lot, I also had a real lack in my exercise routine and going outside. Not really having time for friends or family or seeing anyone outside of work. I just felt really crap within myself and I had zero confidence and I needed to do something about it. So what have I tried so far? I really wanted to try things that were realistic, cheap and as easy as possible. First thing I tried was to get up earlier. So I started setting my alarm at 6:30. Something that I've always really struggled with, getting up early. But one of my main things was that I was complaining about not having enough time. So it made sense, get up earlier, you have more time. Next was a to-do list. And I was hoping that this would help my productivity and stop myself wandering around if I did have 5 minutes going, oh, what was it I needed to do? I decided to do 100 squats a day for 30 days because I had a little inkling that being sat down all day might have an effect on my mood. Stretching regularly, mindfulness, going outside in nature and grounding. Those are all the things that I have tried on my quest for happiness. So what have I sacked off? What am I not doing anymore? Well, I'm not doing 100 squats a day because that was a lot. If I am sat down all day, I know that I need to break it up and either do some squats, some press-ups, or just run up and down the stairs a bit. Get the blood pumping, maybe feel better. The to-do list, whether that's because I got in a routine and instead of having to write the same thing down every day, it did become my routine so I didn't forget to do those things. Or I put so much on my list sometimes, it was really overwhelming, I didn't know where to start. So there's things that I do every day that are in my brain now, but also if there is something really important that I don't want to forget, I'll put a reminder in my diary and then that'll remind me to do that thing. Stretching. Now this is not because I think it was pretty useless, it's just something that has been forgotten about a little bit. I do it maybe once a week, but I would like to do that more, so mental note to myself, maybe I should put that on my to-do list. And what have I started doing now that I cannot live without? Some of the things that I started aren't daily things, it's just as and when I can, like being in nature. If I don't have my dog or I don't go for a bike ride or something, I will try and get a 30-minute walk in after dinner or something, so I have got some time outside. But then when I am with my dog, I really try and make the most of that time, or like to go fishing or something. Grounding, that's something that I really enjoy doing, but it's a little bit time constricting. So ideally I would do 30 minutes a day, but I just do it when I can do something and I can stand outside in the garden. So whether that's eating breakfast, watering the garden, doing some gardening, hanging the washing, anything I can do outside, whip off my shoes and socks, then I'll do that. And these two are really easy to do now because it's summer and the weather is quite nice at the moment, touch wood. I would be interested to see how those two work out in the winter. I would really like to try and get them as part of my routine now so that hopefully in the winter I will carry on doing them. But I do worry about my little toes getting cold. I am still getting up earlier, which I'm super proud of. So usually it's 6:30, maybe 6:45 during the week. And at the weekends we don't put an alarm on. but we still naturally wake up at sort of 7:30. And it's so nice to have that little bit of extra time in the morning. And I feel like I am actually quite productive. Not first thing, but once I've woken up, I really just want to get cracking before work or get to the gym. So I really value that time. The most beneficial thing that I've started to do and implement into my life as much as possible is being mindful and being present. Just doing everything with more intention and being aware of what I'm doing. Sounds really simple, but actually I think a lot of people, are constantly distracted and thinking about a million things at once. Whereas when you can just concentrate on one thing, I think your productivity goes higher, because instead of doing my drawings watching TV like I used to do, they took twice as long because I was half watching the TV and half doing my drawings. Whereas now I'll put on some binaural music, maybe that's how you say it, good music to help you concentrate, and then I would get my drawings done a lot quicker. Walking without headphones in. Sometimes it's nice to put a podcast on, listen to some music when you're outside, but I really enjoy just listening to the sounds of nature, slowing down, looking at all my surroundings and really appreciate what's around me. And then something else that I'm trying, which kind of goes hand in hand with that, is just trying to be on my phone less, which in itself I'm sure is making me a lot happier. A few other things that I'd like to mention that go hand in hand with what I'm doing is that I'm learning new stuff. It's actually quite fun doing research and doing a bit of science. I feel like a scientist. Learning new things and then sharing that information with people. It's really nice. I'm being a little bit more cautious when it comes to what I'm putting in my body. And that includes alcohol, sugar, caffeine, food, all of that stuff. I feel like this is probably the next part of my journey to dig into those lovely topics a little bit more. I have a bit of resistance when it comes to this because I feel like I've got a bit of an addictive personality. I really like the feelings that alcohol, caffeine and sugar give me. I like the sensations, I like the buzz. So it's taking a little bit of time to address this and change these habits, because I feel like this is going to be a little bit harder than whipping off my shoes and socks and standing outside. So, do I actually feel happy? Yes, but I know that I have got work to do. I know I'm in a much better place than I was at the start of the year, thankfully. I still have days that are shit. I still have days where nothing particularly bad happens and I feel like shit. And what I can do to make myself feel better, things that I just do on a daily basis anyway. So I'm naturally feeling better. I feel like I'm on the right path. And I found that since being on this path, the people that I interact with are also on this sort of similar journey. And it's really nice to have really important conversations with people about life and what makes you happy, and normalising things like taking time for yourself, not letting work take over your life, and what is success. I've had some really good conversations with people, so thank you to everyone who's reached out to me. Sometimes I wonder why it's so hard to be happy. In reality, I think it's only hard when you try and change something in your life that you've maybe always done. And it might start off hard, there might be a bit of resistance. But I think once you get used to that and realise, oh, actually there are benefits to this, I do feel better, then that kind of makes you more inclined to try other things. Some of these changes don't just make you happy overnight, but it builds over time. I can see happiness in my life. It's not a quick fix, and you have to do everything really to make you happy. You can't just address a couple of little things. But to keep it less overwhelming with everything going on and trying to change everything, I think I've done it in quite a good way, or I'm doing it in quite a good way, of just addressing a few things at a time, making small changes at a time. So it's just more realistic and doable. And those little things I found very helpful. I've also found it really useful doing the research that I've done. And it's kind of things that we know. I suppose I've always known that sitting down all day inside isn't going to be that good for me. But until I actually researched, why is sitting down bad? And found out, I was like, oh my God, it's actually really bad for me. And that really gave me a kick up the arse to do something about it. And then researching how to counteract that and find out scientific ways of how to improve or counteract all the bad things, because I don't want to die young of heart disease or cancer or anything else. My cognitive function, I want to be strong and remember who I am until I am 300 years old. The information's just helped me so much with motivation, and that's why I wanted to share it with you, just because it might motivate you to do the same. Knowledge is power, after all. Knowledge is motivation as well. I struggled at school, I struggled with focus, I struggled learning, I struggled listening. However, luckily I have more interest now because it comes down to my health and well-being, so I should be interested in that. I found new ways of learning, and luckily platforms like this make it so much more accessible and engaging and interesting and fun. I'm learning about my happiness, trying new things to try and make me happy and less miserable. So that's pretty motivating to try it. I'm looking at my life a little bit differently. I do have the power to change my life in small little ways most of the time. Each decision we make affects our lives and happiness. From choosing a donut, which will initially make me extremely happy, but afterwards I will not feel so happy, to making healthier life choices, which perhaps at the time might be a little bit harder, might not quite have the same effect in the short run, but we are on a life marathon, not a short little sprint. Something switched in me and I'm so glad it did. And I'm putting it down to mushrooms and Stu, thank you Stu, for kind of switching on my mindfulness. There is so much to learn, and I'm not just talking about the science of what will make us happy and healthy and live forever, but also about ourselves. We've kind of got to unlearn loads of stuff and then relearn who we are as people. And that's an exciting thing, but it can also be a little bit scary and challenging at times. Also, everything's changing. There's new science, new research coming out all the time. This is great for you, and this is great for you, and this is bad for you. And you're like, ah. And we're all so different too. We have different ages, on different journeys, we have different needs. So what might be good for someone might not actually be good for you. I'm very excited to keep trying these new things and making some perhaps hard decisions, especially when it comes to donuts and sugar. But I am excited about this journey. So what should you expect in the next 6 months? Well, probably more of the same. As I mentioned earlier, I think I'm going to have to address the food, caffeine, alcohol situation at some point. I'm also listening to a lot of podcasts on menopause at the moment, and that's something I feel like we all need to talk about. I also want to look a bit more into sleep and exercise. And do expect the odd adventure with Marta and Rocco, and also other random things that claim to make us feel better. I will continue to check in with you and keep you updated on my journey. And I really hope that you can do the same in the comments as well. Have you tried anything that I've tried? Or are you trying anything else? Let me know. I would love to hear from you, share ideas and your thoughts to help each other, support each other on this life marathon.